Welcome, creeps, to a special conversation on the Epic Film Guys podcast. We have a guest that is no stranger to genre films, directing a wide array of action and horror, and his upcoming movie is about to make horror fans howl. We'd like to welcome onto the show Werewolves director Stephen C. Miller. Thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yo, what's up? Thanks for having me. This is cool.
Absolutely. So, Jeremy, you've been
Yo,
a big fan of Stevens for a while, and you've been talking about trying to get
big
him
time.
on the show. And what better
Sure.
time than right when his new movie Werewolves is coming out in theaters? Man, how excited are you? I've been following you on Twitter. We interact a little bit, Steven. The people posting their pictures at AMC theaters, the poster is everywhere, man. That's got to be fucking exciting.
Dude, it's epic to say the least. Like, no, it's fucking cool, man. Like, I've been doing this for a minute, and trying to make movies for people to see everywhere. But to actually have this be the one, I mean, I've had some smaller theatrical releases, right? Like, but this one to be the first that's actually big, wide, you'll be able to walk into whatever theater you're around and go see is going to be wild. So it's even more than excitement. It's completely surreal, to be quite honest. And it is very cool to have people sending you things. It's even cooler when it's like your kids' friends, like randomly texting them going, "Hey, I was going to see Smile. Is this your dad's movie?" So it's so weird. But it's very, very cool. Yeah.
I mean, I know that on Twitter, when the trailer dropped, it fucking went viral, man. Like everyone was talking about it because it was such a great trailer. That had to be an amazing feeling.
It was an amazing feeling. It totally blasted off. I think, Wolfman sort of helped it a little bit too. Like it felt like it was all of a sudden they were like battling against each other, which I thought was awesome. And in a totally good way, because I love Lee's movies. So like Wolfman, I'm excited about. So like, I thought it was really cool that people were like, oh, what about this movie? Well, what about Werewolves? Or what about Wolfman? So it felt like there was this sort of right zeitgeist moment for it, And so like, I was kind of feeling that. It was really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'll absolutely take the return of the werewolf genre in a big way. Like
Totally.
2 big werewolf movies. Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah, just keep them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, for sure. This is like you're the leader in the werewolf renaissance, and all of us horror fans are here for it. And like that's such a weird like subgenre to like nail, to like get right. There's the werewolf has to look great, the story has to be great, like everything has to work. And we're living in a time where CGI creatures and monsters is very prevalent in horror films, which us horror nuts, we want the guys in suits, we want the practical effects, and man, we're gonna nerd out all over you and this whole thing coming up here. But man, what a beautiful experience watching your film was, because werewolves is like one of my favorite subgenres of the genre. And man, I'm not just here to like wax your car. Like this you nailed it, man. You brought it. And we're super stoked about it. Yeah.
That was, obviously, dude, thank you so much. That's insane to hear, because it is hard to get right. It's werewolves. And you got to remember, like, when you're pitching these movies, I've been pitching werewolf movies for like 10 years, it feels like. And everyone's like, no, they don't make money. No, they can't be done right. No, no, no. So when this one came across my desk and I was actually able to pitch an action movie, which I think changed the climate a little bit, and everyone was like, okay, the guy can do action. I mean, how hard can it be to throw in wolves? I mean, little do they know it's even more crazy. But but to get them right and to make them look great on screen was a big deal for me, right? We started out going, this will be practical. 90% practical, I think, is a big number for the movie, especially when you're dealing with multiple wolves and things happening all the time. But I think the thing I'm the most proud of about this movie is that if you see a wolf on screen, if you see a werewolf on screen, the guy in the suit, he's not touched. From the time I shot him to the time it's edited to you see it on screen. There's no touching up. There's no fixing. There's no like, we didn't clean up a seam. We didn't do any of that. And that's sort of a testament. I kind of promised my guys, Alec Gillis and them who were doing the suits, was like, look, I love you guys. I trust you guys. And how we shoot these things is how they're going to go. We're going to live and die by it. And that was something that I really just leaned into.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, like Justin was saying a second ago, I've been a huge fan of yours from like the jump, from Automaton Transfusion, still waiting on that sequel, brother. But
I know. That's one of those movies where you're like, did that really get out there? Like, when I made it,
yeah,
I thought they were going to be like, yeah, here's some money, go make a bigger version, and then they were like, no, we're going to put this out, and I was like, what? No,
yeah.
don't put this out. I made this in film school. No, but it's wild that movie got where it went, and it's awesome to hear someone say they love it.
Oh, dude, for sure. And so before we jump into these questions, I just, as a testament to prove like how much of a fan I am of your filmography, I watched the aggression scale on my honeymoon with my wife, bro. Like,
Wow, dude.
That's
I don't.
hardcore.
yeah,
That's hardcore. I mean, I'll tell you, me and my wife's honeymoon was in Vegas. I don't know if we were watching anything other than Elvis. But dude, watching the aggression scale on your honeymoon, I
yeah.
don't know. I think I might have to send you like a fucking Blu-ray or something. I got to do something. That's wild.
Yeah. So been a big fan for a long time. So I guess I'll jump right in. Is it harder for you as a director going into a film that you didn't write yourself, or is that an easier process for you?
I love it way more. I love not writing my own material. Number one, I realized I'm not good at it, and that I like to surround myself with people that do things much better than me. So that way it sort of ups the game. But there's something about directing someone else's material. You don't feel as close to it. So you are in more of a mindset to rip it apart, and really take it in the direction that you want it to go. So like I always come in and do an action pass, or in Werewolves case, like a set piece pass, of what the wolves are really going to be doing in each set piece. And that's something I actually like doing more. Like the character work, all of that stuff, I'll leave it to the guys that kill it. I just kind of come in and take their action work or set piece work and kind of make it my own. But yeah, I find that for me, it's just easier to get into if I didn't write it. I'm not so close.
Cool. Right on.
We've seen you tackle other sectors of genre. What made you specifically want to make a werewolf movie? I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere on Twitter that you said it may have been a suggestion of DC Film CEO James Gunn. Is that right?
It was like, so like I kind of like tackled, it felt like a bunch of things. It was like I'd done some zombies, I had done like a banshee, I had done like the Silent Night slasher, and so I was like, man, what's next? Should it be vampire? What should be thing? And I kind of wrote out a list, and I did it. It was on Twitter at the time. It was like vampires, werewolves, I don't know what else I said, but James Gunn responded and was like, you should tackle werewolves. And I was like, fuck it, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna tackle werewolves.
Yeah.
And so I just actively went out and found this script. I think I found it, I'm not joking, like a week or two later. Like I found this script, and then I just had to try to find someone to make it. But that happened pretty quick after he made the suggestion. So it's really funny. It's
That's
even funnier
amazing.
that he's working with Frank Grillo now, right? Him and Grillo are doing Creature Commandos all the time. And I had Grillo tell him, I was like, you need to tell him, like, I'm making werewolves off his suggestion, and they got a big kick out of that.
I was going to say,
That's crazy.
Hopefully he sees it, he digs the shit out of it, and who knows, maybe you'll be getting a call from DC soon for something.
Dude, I've already told him I want the Creature Commandos feature. Like, give it to me. But yeah, we'll see.
So, what was your process on the werewolf designs? How did you come up with your final design of what we got on screen? What was the process like on that?
Yeah, we did our initial concept drawings very early on, and the concept drawings kept coming back really great. And then when I took it to Alec Gillis, who did like Pumpkinhead and stuff like that, he's just been great, does all these things. Hadn't done werewolves before, which is cool. And so when I gave it to him, he had a couple iterations that we kind of went through first. We went through one that was uber fluffy, felt like I don't know, something straight out of like maybe Five Nights at Freddy's. You know what I mean? Like it looked kind of in that vibe, almost like stuffed animal kind of deal. And then we kind of just kept shaving it and making it darker and shaving it and making it darker until the muscles were exposed, and sort of feeling like it was more man mixed with beast and not total beast. And I think that's sort of where we really wanted to go. It was just getting there. That was a little bit of a process. But yeah, I really was kind of open to everyone's sort of artistic ideas. This thing is so artistically done with the werewolves and how they look. And I really didn't want to be like the end all be all guy. I really wanted to allow everyone artistically to sort of chime in with, if they're going to be molding this thing and creating this thing, I really wanted Alec and his team to have some stake in it. And they just did such a good job coming up with a design, in my opinion, final design that was so menacing that I knew when we screen tested it and put it on screen, it was going to rock.
Oh man, it looks so amazing. I love the elongated snouts. I love that like every werewolf looks distinctly
Very
its
unique.
own unique
Yeah.
character. Like that's my favorite thing in this entire movie. Like, brother, again, we're avoiding spoiler stuff, but there is a moment with I'll just say punk rock werewolf.
Yeah. We called her
And
Punk Rock Princess. We'll just call her that.
okay. Okay, fuck yeah. So when the punk rock princess came out, I literally threw my arms up in the air and said, "Fuck
Dude,
yes!" Like,
we didn't watch it together, Jeremy, because we don't
no,
live near
yeah.
each other. I literally did the same fucking thing. I turned to my wife and I was like, yes. It's so badass.
It's so
Oh
fucking
my
awesome because that is what we went for. I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie, I had to battle producers on this point because they were like, no, they need to all look the same. They need so that way we can have more in different places, right? They were like, if they look the same, then we can have more of them on screen and no one would be able to tell. And I was like, yeah, but like if they all look the same, then to me, there's no personality in the movie. And we're just saying the movie's
exactly.
generic as just like any other werewolf movie. Like what's gonna set our movie apart, like in some movies where werewolves grab shit and like beat people over the head, like our werewolves could be actual humans that morphed into their personality is morphed into the werewolf. So that's really what we looked at is like, okay, where did this werewolf come from? What were they doing at the time? Were they working in a factory? Were they at home with their mom? You know, were they like whatever? Where were they? Were they at a punk rock show and all of a sudden they wolfed out? Like to me, that was cool. And there was something about that was like, okay, then we got to infuse those looks into these people and into the wolves. And so that's where that was born. And I think you're right. It's a lot of fun on screen.
And
It's so fun.
yeah,
The Cody Wolf Hunter
Oh yeah, he's
werewolf,
great.
like
wolf killer.
again, we're wolf killer, wolf killer.
I mean, you got to have a character like that
Oh,
in the movie. It's just about how do you
perfect.
play that character so the audience buys in. And like I think we were able. I mean, really, Frank did such a great job on set of really getting a performance and really getting this guy really ruffled up and like getting pissed and like, oh, he's gonna take out the world. But like it's a great character, especially when you're like spray painting them and stuff. There's like something about that goes on the wolf, and you're like, damn, the wolf actually looks kind of badass like that. Like,
Oh,
it was a lot of
incredible.
fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. Seeing them on screen when you don't see this kind of thing in modern horror movies that often was just a huge breath of fresh air. Like, I can't tell you enough how exciting it was when much like you just said, us as viewers, we can tell that shit's real. We can tell
Yeah.
every shot that it's not touched up or messed around with. It's natural. It's got whatever lighting you're choosing on it, and you're just allowing it to live and breathe the way that it was created. I absolutely adore that. On this subject of the werewolves themselves, what's the dynamic of directing the actors operating the full-scale creature suits themselves? Is it more difficult for them and for you to direct them in scenes because it's obviously probably a pain in the ass to be in that thing and actually, create the creature within?
Yeah, I mean, because there's a lot of components that are going into it, right? So you have the guy in the suit, and then the head comes on, and the suit itself is probably like 50 pounds, right? And then you put the head on, which is another 30 pounds just in itself, because it has all of the animatronics going on in the head. So the actor has his earwig in, so he can hear me, right? And then he's got this head on, which makes him completely blind. So like everything we were doing had to be basically they had to know inside and out and know exactly where they were going before they put that head on. Because once they put the head on, it was like almost lights out. So they could see out the neck, but it was looking at the ground almost. So to get them in that, right? And then you have the 5 or 6 animatronic guys that are on the side, also working everything from the ears to the snout to the muscles in the face to the tongue to the drool to the teeth. And then sometimes I'm just like constantly yelling drool. There's just drool coming out, or like pump the blood one. There's another tube of blood that'll pump the blood, right? So they have to get their animatronics going with the performer's actions, right? And then you do all of that, and then add 5 of those because we had 6 guys in total suits built, and so we would have 6 guys on screen at sometimes all together. And to have all of that happening at once is a massive orchestration of practical work, because they're all doing individual things. I'm trying to catch all of these shots sometimes in one. And so it was difficult. And then you throw rain into the mix, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, what are we doing?
Yeah, so
Why are we making this harder?"
I was going to say, was that just an atmospheric decision, or was that something that, because
Okay, so it's
fucking
a
awesome
total
in the rain?
atmospheric decision, but it's also a weird thing that every one of my movies has some sort of water or rain infused into them. And so like it was definitely that, but atmospheric is a big one because I just hadn't seen werewolves in rain. I don't know, maybe they do it in Underworld, but I couldn't remember a movie where they were heavy in rain, suits in rain, and we're just gonna have them fight in rain. Like I hadn't
Yeah.
seen that before, and so like that was something that was fun for me. But again, like having that orchestration of the guy in the suit with me talking to him constantly, with guys like doing it, because sometimes I forget I'm talking. And I'm talking to the guys like, "Hey, blood," and the guy in the suit's like, "Huh?" And he like turning around, like, so it's like I have to remember, like, all right, I got this guy on walkie 1, this guy on 2, right? And so it's definitely not easy, but damn, it's fun. Like it was so fun because you for a second you sit there and you look around and you're like, oh shit, I'm directing a werewolf movie. Like it's like all of a sudden the tingles start to happen, and you're just like thinking about like, oh man, I remember when I watched Silver Bullet as a kid, and all it's like one of these things that like hit me. It was like I'm actually getting to do something like this. It was pretty cool.
In the second part of that question,
amazing.
before I let Jeremy take it, because we're on the subject, we might as well fucking ask it. I really just wanted to know,
Yeah.
what is your favorite werewolf movie?
All right, my favorite werewolf movie is easily Dog Soldiers. Dog Soldiers is my jam.
Yes.
It's probably Dog Soldiers, and then I really love Ginger Snaps. Like Ginger Snaps for me is just like totally different vibe that I fell in love with. And then The Howling, American Werewolf in London, Silver Bullet, like I said, those are sort of my top go-tos. I would even throw Fright Night in the mix as far as transformation from
Absolutely.
wolf to human goes, because wolf to human, that transformation was gnarly. So yeah, those are some of my favorites.
Nice. One of my favorite shots in the entire movie was when it was like the 6 werewolf actors like going down the street, and there was the light and the fog behind them. To me, it looked very much like an homage to Lamberto Bava's Demons
Yep.
in the
I
theater
love
with the
Demons.
lights. Yeah, I mean, dude, that I looked at that shot and I was like, that looks like a straight up homage to Demons. Was there any other like homages or nods to other horror films that you consciously were like, hey, I want to throw a little bit of this in here?
Yeah, there was a few things in the movie, and like there was specifically one with the transformation shots. Whenever it's actually the main transformation shot of the wolf transforming into frame was a big Howling moment for me, because I loved the Howling when he sort of transforms right in that kitchen and it feels like the snout is coming right at camera. That was a big one for me. There's probably a couple more that I'm not thinking of right now. That was really specific that I knew that I was consciously doing. It's funny that you mentioned Demons, because we had watched Demons. Like I think we watched it like the third or fourth night of prep. We're all just like people like would gather up, and like I'm weird about when we're prepping movies. I'm making people watch movies with me all the time, because to be honest, that's sort of like my film language on set. So like it's funny that you said it, because I'll be like, no, I want this shot from that shot in 7, that's the one I want right here. That's how I sort of roll when I'm directing anyway, is I'm calling out shots from other movies that I love and I just want to steal and make my own. But like that's what I love about movies, is that you can sort of talk that language, and if you've watched the movies through the course of prep, you just already know what I'm talking about by the time we get there. And so I always have some kind of movie list. How Gunn probably has like a music list that everybody's listening to. Like I have a really good movie list that I try to put together for everyone to sort of watch and be kind of prepped to go into it.
It's interesting that
That's
you
cool.
do that. That's also a Martin Scorsese thing that I've heard about.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. I have heard that.
Yeah, he brings people in and he makes the actors watch like 5 movies. Like, this is what I want the movie to be like, the acting to be like, all of that shit before they even film the movie. So that's wild that you do the same thing. That's a really interesting perspective in terms of being a director and how you want to do your own movie. I love that.
Yeah, it's fun. Like I don't know if I could get the actors to like. I can't imagine being like Frank. You got to watch these movies. But like with all of production, it's fun. Like we're all just like hanging out like summer camp anyway. So we're all just trying to figure out what are we gonna do tonight. And I'm always like, well, let's just watch these movies. But it is kind of cool because Frank did talk to me very early on about what movies I liked as far as werewolves and stuff like that goes. So he was really invested from the get go.
That's cool.
That was actually my next question. Frank has been widely considered by many, the underdog king of action flicks. He's on his way up, man. Was he your number one choice to play your lead, Wes? How did you decide on who would play that character?
Yeah, he's totally my number one. So me and Frank had sort of been in circles. Like I made a few movies with some of his buddies. He's made some movies with some of my buddies. And we had kind of messaged on the side. He had hit me up a couple times like, look, man, if you ever get something that you think would be fun for me, like I'm into it. I want to do something. And so I found this, I sent it to him and I said, look, it's a werewolf movie. I don't know if you're going to be into it. Before I could even like get that sentence out, he was like, I'm in. Werewolves, I'm down. Like I've always wanted to be in a werewolf movie. And I was like, okay, but listen, this is like the werewolf meets Purge. Is that too close? What? It should be, yeah. Like he was like gung ho from like the very beginning. I don't know. He read the script right away for like a few weeks, and then he calls me after reading the script, and he was like, dude, this thing rocks. Like, how are you gonna do this? and then we got into it. But I found myself with Frank. The thing I loved about Frank is like me and him got along so instantaneously that there was like more of a human connection as far as just love of movies, love of action, love of old school action, that we didn't really get into talking about the movie. Like, I'm not really a big, like, this is my grand vision guy anyway. I don't really do that sort of thing. But we were just more hang out. And then the movie naturally came into play where he was like, so are we going to make this cool? Like, yeah, we're going to make it cool. And like, I remember the first day he was on set that he saw the werewolf.
Yeah.
And that's always that's like the big day, right? Because he hasn't seen, I've kind of hid it from him. I didn't want him to see anything. I wanted him to see it on set, which is a big risk, right? For your lead actor not to see what's totally going on until he gets there. And then Frank showed up, got on set with a wolf, and like, he was just like a kid. He was like, this is fucking awesome. He had such a good time. So it was really cool to see his eyes light up.
Amazing. That's always something that's interesting to me. I love hearing directors talking about them hiding a certain aspect of the film from the actors in order to get like a shock or surprise out of them. But to hear that he was so almost like a kid in a candy store. I mean, like, who wouldn't be like with these amazing full scale practical werewolves that look awesome? Absolutely.
You just never know, right? Because you don't know what they're envisioning in their head. Because we always know, like, we're always told what you don't see is scarier, and like everybody's mind creates something different. But there's something about, I think, when you're on set and they see it, and especially if the lead actor is in Frank, and everybody's sort of waiting for Frank to see it, right? Because everybody's like, well, if Frank doesn't like it, I'm not liking it. You know what I mean? And that's like the producer mindset, right? And so for Frank to really sign off and go, this is my movie, which he did, is awesome. Because I've done a lot of movies where I get these guys for like a day, 2 days, 3 days. And for Frank to be like, I'm here to run a show. This is my movie. I'm here every day. We're going to make this fucking cool. It's a big testament to Frank and how much he trusted me. He trusted the movie, the material, because he could have easily not done that. And the fact that he wanted to be a big part of it, it says a lot.
That's rad. What was the most difficult scene to shoot in this thing? Because there's a lot of action set pieces, and you filmed. Was it Puerto Rico that you guys filmed in?
We were in Puerto Rico. I remember we're in Puerto Rico in the summer, so it's not like we're like, oh, this is the weather's fine. No, it's like dead heat, and you're just like, the guys are sweating in these things. You get like 4 actors in. By the time you're getting the 5th actor in the suit, the first guy's like, I got to take this head off. You know what I mean? So it's like every challenge you could think of with heat, it was that. I think probably the most challenging thing to shoot, surprisingly, is there's a scene where all the werewolves are kind of breaking down the fence and pushing into the house. That sequence was really just difficult because it was not just the werewolves, but the fence itself had to explode and drop and move down. And it was just all of them going at once. Anytime they were all on set was insanely difficult just to get all of them to be moving properly and look good. It was really hard. But that was probably the hardest thing to shoot. I think the crew would probably say their worst thing to shoot was the rain, because we're just drenched everybody and the suit becomes about 100 pounds heavier. So they're shooting in the rain. But you know, it's one of those things it looks so good on camera that everybody buys in. So I knew if I shot it and I showed everybody. So after the first day of shooting in the rain, I went home and I edited together like a quick trailer of the day and came back and showed it to everybody. And everybody's like, oh my God, yes, we're making some crazy werewolf in the rain, you know? And so like, it just got everybody stoked. So that always makes it easier when I can pull off something like that.
Yeah, anytime I see a huge set piece with animatronics or like suit actors with rain, it reminds me of Jurassic Park, where
Oh
they
yeah.
talked about the difficulty of shooting that scene with the gate with the T-Rex,
And it's true
and how
because
much
it
more
wouldn't work.
difficult it was. Yeah.
Sometimes it wouldn't work. Like sometimes the wolves were just like stunned at me. And I'm like, is he okay? Like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, he's just not
Yeah.
working. And I was like, oh, I thought he was like freaking me out. He just looked weird. You know, sometimes he would just start shaking in the rain, you know. And so I was like, uh-oh. But yeah, it's definitely not easy. And everyone is like, you know, worried, is it gonna work? Is it gonna work? And it does, which thankfully. But you know, it's just one of those things when you're shooting an indie movie, you're like constantly prepared for the worst anyway. So you have like 5 scenarios in your head all ready to go. So luckily with this movie, most of it worked pretty flawlessly.
That's great. That's
On the
great.
subject of Jurassic Park, I maybe saw, I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional, with one of the werewolves. It looked like it was an homage to the T-Rex
Oh yeah.
moving its head down in the eye and looking at a character. I
Oh
don't want
yeah.
to spoil it for the audience, but
Yeah, I think it was. We'll just say with pushing to a door, I believe it was, and he is like right there in the hole. Like that's a total homage to Jurassic Park. I knew I was missing one when you asked me. There
there it
was one
is.
Yeah, yeah,
specifically for it.
yeah.
But that one is specific because it's just a great shot. It's like especially when the sort of the flashlight is on the eye and it's like right there, you know. But yeah, that's a fun shot.
I'm sure you saw the recent news of the Terrifier production team tackling a new version of Silent
Yeah.
Night, Deadly Night. You yourself tackled your own version of the classic 1984 movie in 2012. I was just curious, what are your thoughts on the current state of the slasher genre itself?
I think it's wild. You know, like for me, like it's something that's like blowing up again, which is fucking cool. I'm here for it. I think that the more the audience can get into it, the better indie movies can get, to be quite honest. Because I think if you can kind of take the leash off of indie horror a little bit and let them run wild again, I think it's going to save cinema. I think letting movies be kind of daring, and letting them push the envelope is always what made indie films so great. It's always what sort of pushes, you know, studio films to go a little bit weird. I mean, I don't think we would have gotten half of the 90s studio films if it wasn't for 80s horror. So like I think that sort of for me is a good thing for movies right now. And to be honest, like I'm really stoked for them to sort of put their spin, because I always felt like my version was so different, was such its own thing, that I always it was, yeah, it was called a remake or a reboot, and they had the rights, that's why they did it. But I remember when I went into it and making it, I was just sort of not even looking at the original. I was looking to make my own sort of movie. I love the originals, but I wasn't trying to copy that. And that's what I love about remakes or reboots, is if they do something different. So I was just focusing on do my own thing. So I'm hoping that with this, they sort of do the same thing where they kind of give us something fresh. But at the same time, I hope they push the envelope, and I hope they make Santa fucking scary, because to me, that's what's cool about that whole piece.
Yeah, it must feel awesome too, knowing that. I mean, that movie's become a cult movie in its own right. I see so many people every Christmas season, they'll do double features with the original or the sequels and your film as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really come into its own in the past like 4 or 5 years, to be honest. Like it felt like when it first came out, because to be honest, it was supposed to be a big theatrical release, but at the time there was an actual real killer Santa in the news, so they pulled it from all the theaters. And so
Oh,
it
that
kind of just
sucks.
like, yeah, it sucked, and it kind of just like I thought it just went away. You know, I thought it just got put out, and that was kind of it. And then the past 4 or 5 years, it feels like people have sort of found it again and pushed it and resurged it, and which has been fucking really cool, really awesome, because you have people talking about it and what they love about it, and hearing people talk about, like, because you never know if like some of your choices worked or not, and like people loving the mask on the Santa, that they thought that works. Like to me, that was my favorite part. So it's like, yay,
Yeah.
some things are working. But
Yeah.
you know, it is cool to see that sort of surge again, and I'm sure with this news, it'll get a little bit more of a surge and people will want to put them next to each other, which is fun. And I think that to me is what's really rad about the horror genre.
Are you open to doing another slasher?
Yeah, I've been looking. I've been trying to. I want to find something. I just want to find something kind of mean. Like I feel
Yeah.
like I like Silent Night was mean, but I was really kind of having more fun with the movie. I think I'd love to go a little darker. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking. I mean, it'd be fun to tackle anything, to be honest. But if something came at me, I wouldn't say no.
Heck yeah. Well, you're I've been following you for a long time and been Facebook friends and all that good stuff for a little while. So I know that you're like a lifelong horror fan and genre fan. So like, was it surreal getting to work with Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff, being that these are the guys that brought Pumpkinhead, right? They
Yeah.
brought Aliens and Aliens vs Predator and the fucking Monster Squad for Christ's sake, man. Like you like Trimmers, the Graboids and Trimmers, like their track, their list of credits goes on and on and on and on. Was that like a surreal thing, like securing them to bring your monsters to life?
Yeah, it was, to be honest, it's who I wanted from day one. It's just sort of a pipe dream. And I didn't think we would actually get them. You're like, it's a smaller movie. I don't know if we'll be able to get them going. But they, gravitated to it right away. Alec brought me into his office, and that's another surreal moment I can say, to be in the presence of all of those monsters in glass that he has there, and you're just like, oh my god, this guy created everything I watched. And then we did get into a lot of talks about Monster Squad, by the way, because I love that movie.
Yeah, oh
And
yeah.
so Pumpkinhead specifically too, because I also love that movie. But it was really fun to chat with him and the team just about movies and about what they've done and what they were looking to do. And the crazy thing is they had never done a werewolf movie. And I think that is another reason why they were like, okay, this is our turn to
Yeah.
get the werewolf guy in. And so we just had a lot of fun coming up with the creature. We had so much fun shooting it, them being on set. And like I had said, I just gave them so much freedom to be them, and to let them creatively come up with things that they could come to me and be like, the shot we feel like needs to be shot this way, or can we turn his head that way? And like, I'm not the guy on set that's like, no, this is my movie. That's just not my deal.
You're right.
Like my deal is very much like the best idea in the room wins. And so when Alec would come up to me and go, I don't know, I think maybe this shot we should move his head. Oh, let's move his head, dude. Like, let's make sure
Yeah.
it looks good, because it was a thing where I knew for a fact that I was not going to want to change what we shot when I got to the edit, that I was going to try to stay as true to the movie of what we shot as possible. So getting to work with them was an epic moment. It was almost like one of those moments when I met Bruce Willis for the first time, where you're just like, God, this is so surreal. Like, I'm working with a
Sure.
guy like this. And that's the same way that, to me, Alec is in the horror genre. He's that guy. So it was really cool.
Yeah, hell yeah. I've told this story on the show before, but I got to meet Alec like a year or so ago. I was at Monster Palooza walking around, and like I had already met Tom before, and he's like super, super nice. But I was like, man, I'd never met Alec. Like, it'd be so rad to meet him. And as I'm
Yeah.
walking around Monster Palooza, I look over and he's just like walking around hanging out, and I was like, holy fuck, that's Alec Gillis. So I walked up and was just like, hey, Mr. Gillis, and he was like, hey, and I was like, hey, I'm like a lifelong fan, man. And I just like started going on all the stuff that he worked on that I
Of
love.
course you
And
did.
he was and he was the like most adorable, sweetest, kindest human being like ever. He was like, "Oh, keep telling me all the shit that you
Oh
love that
yeah.
I made, man. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Tell me, tell me." So like we sat there and like he literally was just like, "Let's just talk for like 20 minutes." Like it wasn't like I was that guy that was holding him up like, "Oh, and remember when you made Pump," but he was just like, "Yeah, like I'm working on Romulus right now, the new Alien movie," and like he just was stoked to like talk to someone that was a fan, and it was like such a cool moment for me growing up with all of those movies.
But that's who he is. He's a fan. So like, it is cool to talk to someone that gets it like that and like understands, hey, there's people out there that like literally worship this work. Like, this work is that cool. And so he's such a sweet human being. Like, he is that guy that when we were on set, if we wanted to talk about something, totally open to talking about it, did not shy away from it. I would ask some story, he would give it to me. Like, so like, always could
That's
count on
cool.
him for some great content.
That's cool. And you guys had Ian White as well, right?
We had Ian White, which is obviously like a complete master in this genre too, as far as performers go.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Prometheus, you've got the Alien vs. Predator movies, and his track record goes on and on and on too. So I was like watching the credits at the end of the movie, and I was like, oh fuck, like I didn't
Yeah,
realize that Ian White was one of your guys, and I'm like, dude, that dude's an
he's one of the
icon as
main.
well, man.
He's one of the main. Anytime you have Wolf Cody on screen, he's Wolf Cody. So like he is one of the main werewolves in the movie. And he's also Punk Princess. He also brought some
That's
really
awesome.
cool movements to it that I was loving. Like he would try so many strange things. And I was like, dude, just keep doing that. Like whatever
Yeah.
you're doing, give me those movements, have fun with it. And he's just a performer. So he understood what he had to do, and so we're really lucky to have him. We're lucky to have Dane be part of it, who was, Predator and Prey. And he was one of the wolves. And so, having those guys like battle each other was pretty cool.
It sounds like all the stars really aligned for this one for you in terms of getting the right people for cast, the right people for the werewolves, pretty much everything. That had to be an amazing feeling. So, this is probably a hard question to finish up the interview, but how do you feel about the movie as a whole? Is it something that you walk away from watching and you're totally satisfied, like you knocked it out of the park? Or are you of the mind that you want to wait to see how the audience will react in order for you to receive that feeling?
I walked out thinking that we made a really fun movie. And like whether or not I knocked it out of the park, yeah, I'll let the audience decide if that's the case. But I left thinking, and I don't do this often, a lot of my movies, I can walk out of going, damn, we didn't get that, or that didn't work. I felt like the movie worked, and I felt like the movie hits every moment I was trying to hit for an indie film. And like to me, I left it with a sense that I want to make another one. And like
Oh
I
yeah.
want to make another one that takes us even deeper into the world. But as far as this movie goes, I really think we hit the right stride with this movie. I think we had all the right people working on this movie, like you said, and I walked about really happy and just really grateful, to be honest. Grateful that I got to do something like this, because it's definitely something I'll remember for the rest of my life. My kids were there while I was making it. Got to be in. My daughter's a werewolf in the movie. She is a
That's
little
awesome.
girl. There's a scene you probably remember. She's in the
Yeah.
movie. And
I didn't realize
so
that was okay.
that's
I know what
that's
you're
my
talking about.
daughter.
Yeah,
That's my daughter, and
that's
she
cool.
had a blast. But yeah, man, there's just so many cool things about this movie that I love. So I'm excited for everybody to get to see it.
And, on that note, I'm excited for everyone to see it too. Jeremy, I don't mean to speak for you, but you could speak yourself. I
Sure.
had a
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
blast with this. It's exactly what you said, Steven. It's just a fun fucking time. It's exactly what you would want out of a movie called Werewolves with Frank Grillo versus werewolves. Like that's what I said to Jeremy first thing this morning. I texted him. I said, dude, it's exactly what I was hoping it would be and expected it to be. So, you're not pulling any punches. You're giving the audience exactly what they're expecting and hoping for. And Werewolves lands in theaters, ladies and gentlemen, on December 6th. Make sure you check it out. It's going to be a bloody fun time. And also, Steven, you mentioned pre-show a little bit. In LA, they're going to be doing an advanced screening. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they're doing an advanced screening on the 20th, and then they're going to try and do another advanced screening on the 4th of December. And there'll be a couple of them throughout the country. I think it's going to be New York, LA, Chicago, Austin, and Atlanta. So if you kind of see, I'm going to post, I always post, hey, here, check it out. You can go find the tickets. There'll be a link to RSVP. So if you're following me, I'm going to put it up and blast out, hey, these are where you can get the tickets for those.
And where can our listeners find you on social media?
So they can find me on X, Twitter, everything, Instagram, Blue Sky, those kind of things. It's all at Steven C. Miller.
Awesome. Well, dude, thank you so fucking much for coming on the Epic Film Guys and chatting werewolves with us. It was an absolute pleasure to have you. Maybe you'll come on again when you do the sequel. We'd love to have you again.
For real. This was a blast. I've wanted to come on for a minute. So thanks for having me, guys. This is awesome.
Absolutely.
You,
and if this is your first time listening to the show, ladies and gentlemen, you can find us on every single podcast platform and at Epic Film Guys on pretty much every single social media platform as well. Thanks again, Steven, for coming on. And until next time, I'm Justin.
I'm Jeremy.
And as always, we like to ask you to keep it creepy.